Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar called CK-12, a solution for flexible learning. I'm Katie, and my colleague Lindsay and I will be guiding today's conversation about how CK-12 can be a solution for any educational situation, whether that's in-person learning, fully remote learning, homeschooling, or any hybrid or blended model of teaching and learning.
We're glad to have you all with us today for this interactive session, and we want you to leave with practical strategies for implementing CK-12 in any educational context. This could be your core curriculum, it could be a resource to supplement your current instruction, or for any of you who are, students yourselves on the line, we're going to give you some ideas of what resources are really going to help you as you strengthen your education. So just a little bit of a warning here, CK-12 is a very robust, intelligent platform. So our goal in this session is to give you an introduction to CK12.org and show you what our FlexBooks 2.0 platform can do. We're going to show you all the interactivity and related content that really brings learning to life. We're going to show you a few ways to access and share and assign content, as well as how you can monitor progress. And then we'll also discuss some strategies for implementation, and we'll make sure that you leave knowing where to find additional help and support should you need it while you're exploring.
So before we get started today, I want to make sure everyone is comfortable with the two Zoom windows that we'll be using. So one is for Q&A and one is for chat. During today's presentation, if you have a question you want the CK-12 team to answer, our friend Star is here helping us out as well. Please post that in the Q&A window. So that way we'll be able to track and monitor and make sure that we get to all of your questions in today's presentation. And then the opposite window, the chat window, is a great place for community conversation. So it sounds like some of you guys are starting to introduce yourselves. That's great. We want to make sure that if you're an educator, if you're sharing, where you live or the subject you teach, that everyone can see it. So make sure to swap that to read all panelists and attendees. Kind of everyone gets to see your messages that way and not just CK-12 and the panelists. So go ahead and utilize both of those throughout today's webinar to get questions to us and share content with your colleagues.
And this webinar is probably going to be about 30 minutes with Q&A added on to that. So we're going to break a few times and answer questions live. We also have Star, who's going to be typing a lot of answers for those of you using the Q&A. And then we're going to record this webinar. So it's going to be available at ck12.org/webinars in the archive section in the next 24 hours. So you'll be able to revisit anything you learned today, or you'll even be able to share this presentation with a friend or a colleague.
Now, for many of you, this webinar may be your first introduction to CK-12, but we've been the premier flexible learning solution since 2007, serving over 100 million users from around the world. We firmly believe that every student has a unique personalized learning journey, and we offer multiple pathways for students to learn in their own way. We're a nonprofit organization, and all of our resources, absolutely everything on CK12.org is free. So you're not going to see advertising on our site. You're not going to hit a paywall. We are proud to provide free access for all teachers and learners, giving you the tools and resources that you need to seamlessly transition between in-person, remote, homeschool, any sense of schooling and learning as you go.
Yeah, we're going to be your partner for whatever you have planned. Here's a quote that was sent to us probably about a year ago now when COVID first hit and schools were shutting down. This is one of our certified educators in Kansas, Sherry Sells. And she said, because I've been using CK-12 these last few years, my students are having no problems transitioning to the online learning. The easy integration with Google Classroom makes it possible for me to assign anything easily. The videos and Plix options that show up along the sides of my posted readings have my students investigating further than I even ask of them. I am so thankful for this resource. So again, hopefully we're all coming out of just a year of in-person, hybrid, remote, and then back through that cycle again. But no matter what your situation is, CK-12 has something for all educators and learners. And then hopefully, when crazy world things hit again, that your students use us as that primary resource, and there's no awkward transitioning. They're already on board. So what specifically are we offering you? Quite simply, we're offering the highest quality content that's accessible across every platform and device. We're going to work on Chromebooks and smartphones and tablets and desktop computers. And then our customized FlexBooks can be downloaded as PDFs for those of you who need static copies or offline access. We do think the best experience is going to be online, so you have the latest offerings in adaptive learning, but we do have some of that offline accessibility through downloadable PDFs for those of you who need it.
So when you arrive at CK-12.org, you may notice that the bulk of our resources fall within the branches of math and science. We offer comprehensive coverage for middle and high school math and science with our newest interactive FlexBooks, attached adaptive practice, and related content such as videos, interactives, and real-world applications. We do have some math adaptive practice at the elementary level, as well as videos and some FlexLit resources for our teachers and parents down there. And we also have some elementary science readers. You'll find some college FlexBooks, some content that goes beyond the STEM areas as well, and our newest edition of content that's related to adult education, including high school equivalency and resources like that. I encourage you to check out our FlexLits. You'll see those under the Math FlexLits and Science FlexLits up at the top. These were developed to help fill in student learning gaps, especially during this time period, and get them prepared for whatever they missed throughout this year and ready for next year when they go back, hopefully to in-person classes in many situations, or as they're transitioning back. They're great resources. So go ahead and check those out. And all of these resources that we have available here can be used as is, or you can customize content to meet the needs of your standards and your specific community.
Yeah, we actually have an entire section of our site that's dedicated to sharing the content our users customize and create. So like Katie just said, we may be more limited in some of the areas of like language arts, for instance, but we do have schools and districts who've created books on our site that are ready to be used by you. So don't be afraid to use the search bar for any subject or topic and click over to that community contributed tab to see what we offer. And then this demo is also showing you the schools page, which is another place to see content that's been created in a region near you. And this is really the magic to CK-12. You can use the power of our platform to customize, create, or curate your own content. So many of you, you're going to find resources that work and you're just going to use them out of the box as is, and that's perfect. But for those of you who may be in a situation like our friends at the Merced County Office of Education in California, they needed a quick way to deliver content to 22 districts that they serve, and they had to do it quickly. So what they did within a matter of weeks is they built their own FlexBooks on CK-12 using their teacher created materials and other open educational resources. Then they embedded videos from their own YouTube channel and even attached a customized quiz to each of their lessons. So now all of a sudden there's this one place where all 22 districts had access to quality content that they could use for online or in-person instruction with their students. So this is just one example, Merced County, of what's possible when you get the right people together who are willing to reimagine what education looks like.
Now, one thing I want to make sure to note is that as you're finding resources that you like on CK-12, you can add them to your library, or you can copy and paste the unique URL and share that resource with anyone, anywhere. And one big thing, if you want to assign it, in addition to using CK-12 classes, you can assign work to students and receive feedback on how they did with one of our integrated learning management systems. So CK-12 works seamlessly with Canvas, Schoology, and Google Classroom. This means that it's easy for you to assign work, see insights, detailed reports, and all the rest without having to create duplicate classes on CK-12. So we either are about to put some quick reference links in there, or you'll see them shortly. CK12.org/Canvas/Schoology or /G-Classroom for Google Classroom. Those links will be great resources to learn more about that integration. And then beyond that, you can use Clever and ClassLink to use single sign-on, make it easier for your students to get into our platform without needing an additional password. And you might even find some content from CK-12 on Kiddom. So go ahead and check out those resources if you're using one of those platforms.
Awesome. You may see when you're on our pages that we are advertising our free assistant for every teacher. This is just showing you how we have our newest insights that can help you empower your teaching. So let's go ahead and see what the teacher assistant can do. And again, there's the link at the top, that ck12.org/teacher hyphen assistant, and it's in the chat window as well. But what it helps you do is you can see patterns in your students' skill levels. So the teacher assistant shows you how your students' engagement is affecting their skill levels and which students need help before moving on to the next lesson. It also helps you pinpoint where your students are struggling. The teacher assistant uncovers your students' learning gaps and misconceptions, giving you personalized insights on where you can intervene effectively. And then you're also able to get actionable recommendations. The teacher assistant provides actionable recommendations to help improve your students' learning outcomes, including specific problem areas to close any learning gaps. Now, hopefully all that's getting you excited, but it does even more. We're going to auto grade assignments in your LMS. So the teacher assistant updates the gradebook in your LMS as students turn in their work so that you can focus on teaching. So it helps you assign auto-graded assignments to classes in Google Classroom, Schoology, and Canvas. And you're able to see your classes at a glance too. You can look at heat maps that show your class at a glance and help you find students who need direct intervention. And then you can use these insights to customize your lessons. We told you that that's an option. If you choose to, you can use that insight to see maybe where the wording of a lesson may be confusing for your students. And you can further adjust the lessons and create personalized FlexBooks for your classes that are tailor-made to meet your students' needs.
Now, for CK-12, our mission has always been about learning and access, and our student tutor is a way to equalize education. So many students from around the world come to CK-12 looking for high-quality content that they can study on their own. So that's why we created Flexi, our tutor who can play an important role in the learning journey of any student. And so just like the teacher assistant, you can access this. You'll see signs for it across the website, but also directly at ck12.org/student-tutor. And so what does the student tutor do? Flexi makes learning a concept engaging and provides immediate feedback to help students learn complex topics with real-world applications. So assisting that learning through examples and different resources like there. Flexi will answer questions and provide interactive examples to help them understand the underlying concepts. This is currently being tested in our science content, so go ahead and check that out and then look for it as we expand it over time. Another thing that Flexi does is test students' knowledge of a concept by giving them relevant questions at their skill level. So that includes questions within practice, as well as inline questions that we've added to some of our newer content that include feedback to help students as they progress through a lesson and understand what they were not understanding, how they might re-answer that question and get it right and go from there. Another thing that Flexi does is support students with the right amount of help via hints, content recommendations, reinforcement of foundational concepts, kind of filling in those knowledge gaps and improving assignment scores as you work through practice. Flexi also guides students through a learning journey. So timely reminders of students' upcoming assignments, if you're using kind of a 2.0 assignment option in there, topics they may have forgotten or missed, the next topic that we encourage them to learn if they're doing well there, and any unfinished work. This really helps keep them on track, especially as they're in and out of classes at this time. And finally, helping students with self-reflection. Any practice that students do, quizzes, they can see kind of how they did, what they got wrong, how much time they spent, the level of questions, and really help them reflect on how they're doing, how they can improve, and what they might want to go back and check that they are missing.
Great, Katie. I think I am going to go live to the site and I want to do kind of a short overview of how to navigate our site. And then I want to show you specifically what a FlexBook 2.0 looks like and what it means when we're talking about clicks and simulations and some of these, intelligent insights and recommendations and things like that. So I'm going to do a demo, and at the end of it, we'll stop and answer questions and do any additional demos. In the meantime, ask all of your questions in the Q&A. We'll continue to type some answers to those and flag some for live. So here I am at CK-12.org. And as we told you earlier, everything on CK-12.org is absolutely free. But we do want you at some point to create an account so we can do the intelligent things that our system is capable of. you can see that I am logged into a Jumpstart demo account, and I have identified myself as a teacher. So that is why I am on this teacher version of the page. Now, to be honest with you, our resources are very similar to what we offer teachers and students. We just package it a little bit differently, and we give teachers a few additional things like standards alignment and things that students wouldn't be as interested in. So you can explore this page, or you can even click in to learn more about that teacher assistant that we were talking about earlier. Or you can always switch back to the student version and check out what that looks like for students. But like I said, it's pretty similar. It just has a different look to it. And you're going to see this guy, Flexi front and center, as far as he's trying to help guide the students through their experience. So hopefully they're interacting with Flexi and able to ask questions and get the resources and the help that they need instantaneously, whether a teacher is there or not. I'm going to be on the teacher version for the most part. I think you'll want to explore these menu options, and most of them are pretty intuitive, but a little hint, the one I like the best is this explore menu option. Once you get a sense of what CK-12 offers, which I'm going to show you, most of these things here in just a minute, you have direct links. So later on, when you're looking for a FlexBook 2.0, when you want to see all of the simulations CK-12 has to offer, all of these, 1,200 plus clicks, these interactives, play, learn, interact, explore. If you're needing information about CCSS or NGSS alignment, it's here. And then a lot of, professional educator type resources for if you want to join our certified educator program, look at other webinars, sign up for upcoming ones, and then, a smattering of other resources here. So this explore menu, I think, is one that I would recommend that you dive into after you've kind of seen this overview. You can use this search option up here to search for a concept, or I'm going to scroll down, and when I go under, I'm going to pick a subject here. Let's go into physical science. I'll show the math folks something here in a minute as well. But this is a FlexBook 2.0. This is what it looks like. And you can see that the title is CK-12 Physical Science for Middle School. You can read additional descriptions about the authors and standards. But kind of the crux of the book here is that we have all these chapters. It goes down to 22 chapters, and you can open up any of these chapters and you can see the individual lessons that live in here. Let's go into 1310, which is on lever. And you'll notice that before I even get to that lesson, I'm presented with other ways to learn. And this is really cool. If you're an individual learner, you may not always want the text. You might want videos, or maybe you want a simulation or a real world application or a Plex. Or for educators, you have students who are behind and need some review, and maybe this would help them brush up on the concept. Or students who are ahead and say, hey, I finished all my work. What should I do next? Well, here's some other ways to learn. So you can use those accordingly. And you'll see some of those that are embedded within this lesson. But this is a pretty typical book page where it starts with an opening image, poses some questions. You're going to see some green links in here that link to other concepts. And then since this is an interactive book, you're seeing a video that can be played right there. You're seeing charts. This is a simulation that can launch, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a moment. This is a Plex that can launch. And then you've got some summary questions and some review questions, okay? Couple things to point out is that our content can be translated into a bunch of different languages. So for those of you who need the content in another language, it's not perfect because it's Google Translate, but it gets you pretty close. And it's on our menus and on our text in the book. This is for parents, for students, for anybody who maybe needs that other language. I'm going to switch it back to English for this demonstration. But this is a lesson that we want students to explore. We want them to engage. We want them to read. We want them to click around. We want them to watch this video. And then At the end of the lesson, after they've, done their exploration, we give them adaptive practice that goes with it. And now our adaptive practice, I'm gonna preview it here. And yeah, it probably shows I've already made a little bit of progress. Our adaptive practice is set up where you're trying to get 10 questions correct. And so some students may get 10 out of 10 correct, and awesome, they get their 100% completion. Other students, they may be 10 out of 12, 10 out of 15, 10 out of 20. And since it's adaptive, each student's going to be served up a slightly different set of questions. We start off at sort of a baseline and then adjust down to easy questions if they're struggling, move up to harder questions as they're getting a lot of the questions right. But this is sort of what the interface looks like. You can do fill in the blank, true, false, drag, drop, multiple choice. And then Flexi is always down here in the corner, ready to offer up hints, because again, this is a practice session. I'm not even reading this question. I'm gonna miss it, obviously. But we give this like think positive message. Hey, do you need to brush up on this? Again, it's a system that's trying to personalize the learning to you and help you fill in those gaps. It's going to give me one more chance, and again, I'm going to miss it again. And so you're going to see that I'm still at my 3 out of 10 questions correct. My skill level is beginning. As I would answer questions, and particularly the more difficult questions correctly, my skill level is going to advance. And you can read all about that here. We do have a scratch pad and then opportunities to improve this question. But what I really like about our practice tool is that students can start and stop at any time. So if they want to do a few before dinner and a few after dinner, they're able to do that. And they'll have access to a report that kind of tracks their progress. Now, this is one that I've clearly clicked into before, like back in August. And so it shows, for instance, that so far I'm 3 out of 15, 2 of 8 easy, 1 of 7 medium. I spent 18 minutes on it all together. This is when I last practiced it. And it will show you all of the answers that I've either answered correctly or that I've missed, and whether it was the first or second try. So this is super powerful for students to be able to, track their own progress. They can keep practicing and try to reach that practice goal out of 10 out of 10. Or you as a teacher, if you assign this lesson to your students, you will be able to see the progress on how they did on the practice. You will get those heat map scores on how the students did. So this assign button up here, this is kind of the easy way to go about it. If you are somebody who uses Google Classroom in your day-to-day, you will want to make assignments through Google Classroom. If you are a Canvas or a Schoology user, you will be going into those platforms and you will be using CK-12 through Canvas and through Schoology. If you're like, hey, I don't use any of those, but I want to, track the progress of a couple of students, or I tutor some kids, or I homeschool, our CK-12 classes could be a great option for you. But you want to pick the one that you use the most. And when you assign a lesson, you're going to be able to select your classes, set a start date, due date, instructions, and make your assignments. So I'm going to try not to go down that pathway too much, because I know a lot of you aren't necessarily interested in assignments. And Katie and Star did a great job of putting the links to Google Classroom, Canvas, and Schoology in the chat window earlier. So you would be able to refer to those sheets if you would like. An often overlooked little feature here that's super important is this toolbar, these 9 dots or these 9 squares. This is where you find all your action items. So, you can share, you can customize, you can assign, all these things here. And then you're able to see the related content, which appeared at the start of the lesson. Your students can keep their notes and highlights here as well. They're able to highlight text that appears over here in their notes. It's always hard to do with my giant mouse here, but they can change the colors, they can add notes, and then it would stay in their individual account. So they're able to study, prior to exams and things like that. You can also change displays and anything else that you need down here. So Toolbar is cool. You've got a table of contents over here that can help you navigate through this book. And so kind of the last 2 things that I want to show you is we've been talking about our simulations and our Plix, and let me show you what those are. So this is a CK-12 simulation. We have these that are labeled physics and chemistry, but I guarantee you they cross a wide variety of science subjects. And I've seen some of these used in like 5th grade and 6th grade classes. But they open up with this question, like, can Sarah lift her mother on a seesaw? And then it's going to talk us through, okay, well, here's the situation. I've got sound. I don't know if you could hear that sound, but it's now talking to me. And it goes through this scenario. And then when I advance to the next screen, I'm taken to a sandbox where here I get to actually manipulate and experiment with this of like, well, what if mom, weighed more? What if Sarah weighed more? But what if we scooted mom, further down there? How far would Sarah would need to go way to the end, right? Oh, she's still not heavy enough. She would need to be heavier. So this is the type of playground that your students are using in a simulation. And then we always have these extension activities at the end that give some real world examples. We've got worksheets, we've got tutorials. So I highly, highly encourage you to look at our simulations. They could be a full class activity. They could be homework. They could be online labs, all of that kind of stuff. Now our Plix, we have about 1,200 of these, and they have usually 5, 6, 7 questions related to them, but there's always this prompt. And it's asking you to do something. Here it's telling me to move the arm by dragging the red point on the wrist. So I'm watching something happen here. I could also drag the colored pointers over to label it. And then I'm answering some questions. Again, this is a practice tool where the students have answers. They've got hints to help them, and they're able to learn more if they get stuck. It's going to tell them when they get a question correct, and when they miss it, I could get a correct answer. So these are more like, I'd say 5 to 10 minute activities that you could use in various contexts with your students, partner work, bell ringers, review, getting ahead, whatever you would like. But these are Plix. And when I go back to the book, again, all these things are just happening within this lesson, okay? If I had assigned this lesson to my students, I would be able to view class insights. And I'm just real quick going to preview what those look like. And then we're going to pause here for questions. But this is just an example of if you had your students in a class through CK-12, Canvas, Google Classroom, or Schoology, your students would be plotted on a chart that looks like this, where we've got skill levels, we've got engagement. I can click on their names. But I can drill down and say, okay, Christine doesn't look like she's doing very well. Show me what Christine did. And so here I can see that Christine only spent 9 seconds on this read. She has a beginning skill level and her engagement is very low. And engagement means, did she interact with those Plix and Sims? Did she watch the video? Did she do any of that? Somebody who did really well, like let's see, Molly Brown. Molly Brown spent 3 minutes and 7 seconds on the read. Her practice was good, but again, she knows the stuff probably because she's proficient, but she didn't spend a whole lot of time interacting with that lesson. These are the types of insights that are going to be so valuable to you when you make assignments to students, because you can just see what it is that they're up to. And then again, further, we're making recommendations about how to assist your students. If this isn't for you and you just need a traditional heat map, here is what a report could look like for a class, where again, at a glance, you could see, kind of red and green, how everybody's doing, some scores, and then you have access to, again, information about their progress here as well. All right, Katie, I'm going to stop there for a minute. That was again a rapid fire tour of what a FlexBook looks like and some of the things that it can do. But what questions are coming in from folks?
Thanks, Lindsay. Yeah, I'm gonna probably give you one. It's actually in the chat window, so do try to put questions in Q&A so we can make sure to get to them. But I really like this question, so I want to make sure we get to it. What is the difference between Flexi and our adaptive practices? So maybe you could just give a little bit more explanation on that point.
Sure. So adaptive practice is this right-hand corner that, again, it's always set up where students are going to get 10 correct. That's the goal. And when you make an assignment as a teacher, this is the score that's being passed back to your class. Okay, so this is more of the practice assessment for students. It's going to adapt to their level. Now, Flexi is this little orange dude in the corner here, okay? And Flexi is getting smarter by the second, says, I'm your personal assistant, help me, ask me a question and I will do my best to help. So this is where students can type in their questions that they have as they're working through a lesson. And we're kind of keeping a pool of these questions. And, of course we get some, silly teeny bopper type questions, but then we also get some really, interesting, deep, insightful questions that Flexi is coming up with answers to. So this is just, he's going to give some reminders. He's going to help students, guide them in their progress, but he has nothing to do with the actual scores, where that is, your adaptive practice that's kicked back to your LMS or your CK-12 class.
Great. And then maybe one other question, just a question about trying to decide if you wanted to customize content or you wanted to kind of build your own. Do you have any general recommendations?
Sure. I'm going to press this here and go back, press the icon and go back to the home page. If you are thinking, hey, I am a geometry teacher and maybe we're going to abandon our really old textbooks and we want to use something new and fresh, you could click on our geometry book and go into FlexBooks. And I'm going to use our CK-12 Interactive Geometry 2.0 book. And one thing that I didn't mention earlier is that when you find a book that you're like, okay, this looks like it covers some of the concepts that I'm looking for, I can press this big green button here and I can customize this book. So what it's going to do is it's going to make basically a copy of this CK-12 Interactive Geometry book, and it's going to put it in my library. I can give it a new title. And then you've got the magic of customization where you can rearrange sections. You can get rid of sections altogether. And you can do that with lessons, that you can reorder lessons. You can add new content. You can search CK-12 for content. You can combine books. And then if you're really ambitious and you wanted to go in, you could further edit the lessons themselves. You can pull up kind of a word editor. Oh, this is, Katie, have you seen this one? This one's new. I'm not sure I've seen this one.
It's because it's one of the ones with the interactive, cool extra features for geometry and a couple other books that we
anyway,
have.
I haven't seen this box, so I'll say got it. Anyway, you're basically taken to, a word editor, Google Doc type editor that you're used to, that's got these functions on here where you could change titles, you can delete whole paragraphs, you can add in your own videos and your own pictures, that kind of thing. So I think back to the original question of what do? Do you create your own, or do you customize? I would encourage you to check out what we have to offer in the subject that you're looking at. You can also search, let's say you're like, I don't know, I'm still looking for language arts content. Remember, this tab pulls up CK-12 content, but if I go over to community contributed, it's going to give me a lot more options that have been contributed from our users. So maybe you dig in and you really like this 3rd grade language arts book. Again, it's kind of up to you to look at it. But you could add that book to a FlexBook 2.0 and start using it that way. If you're like, hey, I'm wanting to build my own, your library houses the tools to create a new book. And so I could create a new FlexBook 2.0 where it's just going to give you the shell and you're going to be populating your own book from your own resources, or searching CK-12 to combine resources. So something for everybody. Either find a book and you can literally just take the URL of that book. If I want this chemistry book, I could take this URL, copy, paste it. My students could start using it as is right now. I could make a few customizations to the actual book, or I could go to my library and create a new book from scratch and build it out. And then the nice thing is that you can always go back and edit it. It's never finalized, never done. You're always able to make changes to it anytime that you would like.
Great. So I think with that, we're going to jump into some quick strategies as we go through, and then we can continue to answer questions and go from there. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And hopefully you guys can see this lovely keynote. I'm going to present. and we're going to talk about some strategies as we go through. So the first one is we really recommend that you use a FlexBook 2.0 as the primary mode of instruction if you're using CK-12. So this allows your students to shift from in-class to out-of-class learning, remote learning, all the rest, back and forth. The teachers that have been using a book like this have just talked about how that transition is that much easier. And within those books, we've really integrated the best of CK-12. So you can get meaningful insights on how students engaged with the lesson and performed on the adaptive practice. And if this is something that you want to test out, you're welcome to start using it now. If you want to kind of plan for the coming year, whenever your next semester starts, kind of transition in, whatever works best for you. But this is an option to pull from CK-12, to pull from the community. I saw someone asking about Texas TEKS, so you could go ahead and explore the Texas schools page and see some books that are already aligned cleanly to those Texas TEKS, so go ahead and check those out. But that would then, you could customize even further if you wanted to, matching the scope and sequence to what you have, and update it at any point throughout the year if you want to continue to make modifications.
Okay, then I give you a quick overview of adaptive practice that was attached to a FlexBook 2.0 lesson. I also wanted to mention that you can access just practice if you want. Remember when I showed you that explore menu up at the top earlier? You can go to explore, access adaptive practice, and you could just assign that to your students if you just wanted the standalone adaptive practice. For those of you who are like, hey, I think it's great that you have these, 30, 40, 50 adaptive practice questions for a lesson, but I would really like to take some of those questions and hand pick which ones I give my students. That's where you can create a quiz on CK-12. You can create your own questions. You can use our questions, but basically you're tailoring the assignment and choosing a specific number of questions and assigning that quiz to your class.
So another really cool feature on CK-12 that you may want to check out is our annotation tools. And these help students stay engaged as they interact with the learning content. So highlights and notes that they have are going to appear in those individual accounts under that great little toolbar grid in the top right of 2.0 FlexBooks. And they can revisit their notes and annotations at any time, help them self-study, maybe highlight keywords or vocabulary or whatever is useful as they go through there. So go ahead and check those out both for yourself and for your students.
Yeah, I showed you insights. This is really the benefit of using a FlexBook 2.0 and making assignments. So just remember that they're there in that corner. Use them to figure out how much a student has engaged, how much they've interacted with the lesson, and use that to inform your grading decisions on their progress.
And one other thing that you want to check out is our reports. So these have both class level and individual report information. This makes it easy for the teacher and the student to kind of monitor their progress. So you go ahead and use that heat map on the class reports to see at a glance which of your students are completing work, performing well in quizzes, which are struggling. And then if you click on an individual student, you can see the same report the student receives when they complete practice, with details that include time spent, number of easy, medium, and hard questions they answered correctly, their skill level, and even a record of the exact answer the student selected or typed in.
Okay, I showed you our PLIX and our simulations. Remember, the PLIX are more bite-sized, maybe bell ringer activities individually with a partner. They're bite-sized, great for previews or reviews. And then our simulations are those, kind of fully animated environments with those bigger questions like, why do diamonds sparkle and why do trips to Mars happen only during certain launch windows? Really suggest that you use some of these, assign them individually, take the link and share them with your class. But I think everybody can use a few extra interactive things in their toolkit to make learning exciting. And that's where our PLIX and our simulations are a great option.
Our concept pages, which you can find kind of by searching on CK-12 to get to the one that you see on the left, or by going into any FlexBook 2.0 section from the table of contents. These have curated modalities that allow students to learn their own way. So give students the choice of how they want to learn a concept, from videos, real world applications, interactive study guides, and more. And you can grab the URL, copy it to a concept page and share it with your students, or you can go in and assign the individual modalities for learning if you want to report on progress for anything that they did.
We do have a discussion forum that we call the CK-12 Cafe. So this really helps, particularly like in remote learning situations, making people not feel as isolated. Students are able to collaborate with others using this discussion forum for answering questions and sharing thoughts on math and science concepts. So we encourage your students to take part in the conversation and check that out.
And remember that all of CK-12's resources have unique URLs. We've been talking about that all night, both assignments and URL options throughout there. And you can share that with your students and with their families. So in your outgoing communication, make sure to link to the individual FlexBook sections or the whole FlexBook. And if you include instructions for how parents and guardians can use our Google Translate features, that can change the content instantly into their home language and has been really helpful for parents across the world.
Okay, and then this screenshot shows you where you can go to download a PDF of any of the customized books that you've made. Again, we love the interactivity, but if you just need a hard copy, you are able to download that, as well as our adaptive practice and quizzes if you need offline access. So I think right now we're going to do any last call for questions. Katie has just some important wrap-up information to share with you, and then we will look at that Q&A list again and answer any final questions and demo anything else, and then wrap for this evening.
Thanks, Lindsay. So today's webinar was a really quick tour of what CK-12 has to offer. If you want to learn more about our platform and resources, or you want an easy page to share with your colleagues, you can go to ck12.org/overview, and you can see there, you can download a PDF flyer. That gives like a really quick overview of all the different resources we've been talking about. So go ahead and visit that page. The testimonials page, which is found in our footer and under the Explore menu, or you can always go to ck12.org/testimonials, is a great place to hear from students and educators about CK-12 products and how they're being used in the classroom. We used to, pre-COVID, travel around the country, and we got to do that for a few years, gathered a variety of stories, reasons to use CK-12, strategies for implementation that others have shared with us. So feel free to browse or filter based on your role or topic that you're looking for and check those out. Now, if you need additional assistance as you're exploring CK-12, go ahead and visit ck12.org/help for quick articles and tips for using CK-12, or you can click on the help link in the header or footer, depending on the page you're on. And we have one more scheduled upcoming webinar this month. So that is our science webinar. So for all of you science teachers, or share it with a colleague, that's using CK-12 science resources to increase student engagement. And that will be next Wednesday, March 31st. That starts at 3:30 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. So go ahead and register for that. And you can find archived recordings on our webinars page at ck12.org/webinars. So if you weren't able to come in right at the beginning, or you had to leave early today, go ahead and check that out. If you just want to go back and review, we'll have today's webinar posted on there shortly. And if you've never checked out our YouTube channel, you're going to find a wide range of videos, from content tutorials to testimonials, and even our old webinars as well. I want to call special attention to our quick overviews playlist that's recently been updated. We're doing another round of updates shortly. These are bite-sized videos, only a couple of minutes in length, and they quickly get you the help that you need on a variety of CK-12 tasks. So webinars are great, but the 2 minutes, 3 minutes, quick video to help you get through a task, definitely check those out. And this past August, we launched our brand new self-paced certified educator program. So if you liked what you saw today and you want to dive deeper into all of our tools and resources, join a community of educators becoming certified at no cost and on their own schedule. To do that, just go to ck12.org/certified and click join to register for the program, and it will drop you straight into a class so you can get started from that point on. Don't forget to let your social networks know about CK-12. You can like our Facebook page and share content with your friends from @CK-12 Foundation. And we're on Twitter as @CK-12 Foundation as well. So social media is a great way to find and share resources and strategies, expanding upon what we've been talking about today. And hopefully that addresses both in-person and online learning as you go. So with that, I'm going to say thank you for joining us today. We are going to check in on that Q&A and see if we have any questions, but you're always welcome to reach out to us at support@ck12.org if you have additional questions, and we'll be happy to get back to you from there.
Katie,
So, Lindsay, how are we doing?
I think we've done it. I think Star answered all the questions. And, again, we just really want to thank you all for spending some time with us, and go explore. And as you have questions, we are here to support you. But thank you very much. We'll go ahead and close out this webinar right now. So thanks. We'll hope to see you again.